Okay, you're on. We're on.
Hey!
Hi everyone, it's James here from Cabrito. This is Brett from Wild Beer. And we are here to have a little celebration of Goatober and to demonstrate one of the recipes that's in the Wild Beer Goatober box, which is the harrisa sandwich. So I've made thousands of these, well something very similar to these, when I worked at the Eagle in Covent Garden, in Farringdon, the first ever gastropub. I worked there for a year or so, and they had a beef anna sandwich which has been on the menu ever since it opened, and it was the most popular thing on the menu, ran out every day, and I loved it so much that when I wrote the Goat book, I put a version of it in the Goat book, and when we were putting the recipes together for Wild Beer, we thought, what goes better with beer than a steak sandwich? But we wanted to incorporate some beer into the recipe, so we've done the harrisa marinated goat sandwich. So yeah, so that's what we're going to cook today. I'm going to cook for Brett. Brett, tell everyone who you are, what you do.
So I'm Brett Ellis, and I am one of the two co-founders of the Wild Beer Company, and we set out to make beer different than the typical industrial lager or pale ale. Really seeking to have those like wild mixed fermentation flavors, and trying to kind of make a really loud flavor.
There you go. You probably won't let us see that. That's a massive Hercules transporter. Just probably smell the sandwich cooking.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, really set out to do something different. And my background is being a chef.
Oh, right, okay, I didn't know that.
And that was from California. So you maybe tell from my accent.
I wasn't sure if it was California.
Well, it's not quite Somerset.
No, it's definitely not Somerset.
Although 1/3 of my life has been here in these parts. But I was a chef in California, working in kind of the wine country, doing wine dinners and things like that. And that's what introduced me to food and drink and the flavor combinations and complexity that can bring.
So how did you get to, because you just said wine country, and this is what I find so interesting about Wild Beer, because you do think like chefs, like you think with recipes and you think about flavour development. I remember talking to Andrew, who's the other co-founder, talking about like taking inspiration from sort of holidays, and how does that chef process show itself in the brewing process?
Yeah, so it really from the very beginning and also right at the end. So from very beginning, meaning looking at, as a chef, you think, what occasion are we going to eat this food with? Is it celebration?
Yeah, okay.
So is it going to be special or unique and flavorful, or something you're not going to eat every day on a Tuesday or something?
Yeah.
Or is it something you're going to eat any day on a Tuesday afternoon lunch?
Yeah.
So that really helps your mind go towards a point of what flavors you're going to create, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So from brewing, I look at, when is this beer going to be drunk? Is this a beer to drink while watching the football with your friends?
Yeah.
Or is this a beer you're going to have on Christmas Day,
Right.
Christmas morning? Do I want to rival champagne on Christmas morning?
Why just restricted to Christmas?
Yeah, but not specialty, Like, do I want to rival champagne or do I want to rival lager?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, and if I'm going to rival champagne and have it Christmas morning, then I need something that's going to be quite flavorful, because you're only going to have a small amount.
Yeah.
That means it's probably going to have a lot of alcohol. It's going to be kind of probably try to be spicy and effervescent.
Yeah.
But also kind of a good body, smooth body, like champagne can have that buttery texture.
Yeah.
Versus, and so trying to layer in flavors just like you would a chef.
Yeah.
So the entry into it, the aroma of your drink is enticing, the view of it is enticing, and then but also all the way through to the finish and the aftertaste. It's a positive character that either leads you to a different action, either have another sip or have another taste of something extraordinary, something different, or have another bite of something great, like the sandwich today.
Yeah. So we're using the IPA, which, I mean, how many beers have you got going at the moment?
So kind of our core range is around about 9 beers, but in general, on our online shop, you can generally get about 20 different beers at any time.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, there's a couple of things about that. First of all, I think the creativity involved in that is hugely underestimated. I think the other thing about that,
It's hugely painful.
yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure these things are always much harder than they look. But the other thing about that is just how kind of ripped off up until the sort of craft beer revolution drinkers were being. Like, they were just being given these 10 generic beers that you go get in every single pub, and that is your choice, and that's all you have. I think part of the sort of last 30 years of food revolution, the last 10 years of the beer revolution, has been that kind of just fundamentally going, these guys have just been giving us not very good product, and we've just lived with it. Do you know what I mean?
and to, like part of that is like so a couple of things there. Like as a chef, like you look at like
Extreme close up. Yeah, so what we're going to do is cook this sort of medium rare, and then I'm just going to pop them in here to rest. Carry on, right?
Yeah. So like look at your ingredients and your dinner plate as like a palette.
Yeah.
Painter's palette, your ingredients, your food. You know, you're going to make something amazing that's going to be enticing to look at and also enticing to eat and finish and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So in brewing, really the flavors that we're going for, really that translates. That's how I approach making beer and that creativity side of things. I feel like I was going to a different direction on that comment and I got lost.
That's all right. So are you now? Is there a specific range? Like the IPA, it's a terrible phrase, but I'm going to use it because I'm not that sort of beer savvy. Like it's a good all rounder. You know, it works in a lot of different sort of scenarios. Are there beers that you're brewing that you think we want this to replace Goatober when you're eating steak, or we want this to replace Guinness when you're eating lobsters and shellfish? Are there places you're going with the beers specifically to aim them at different types of food?
Different occasions, different types
Right,
of
okay.
food. Yeah. And I would say so Wild IPA is one that we, from the ground up, designed it to be drunk with food. So gastro pubs, Sunday lunches, everything from a special occasion to Monday evening, coming home from work, you have a case of Mondays. So, and the reason why it kind of does that really well is from the base of it is all the malt and the character there, and that is, it's got quite a good character there. It's not extremely light. It's full of flavor and body from the malt itself, kind of directly on the coals. Brilliant.
Bit of freestyling,
Yeah, and that's and so what that does is that means you don't have this really lean, crisp beer that will just cut through everything. It's actually something that the body of it will kind of match the sweetness and the fattiness of different types of food.
Right. Okay.
But then with the hops that are chosen is kind of this pink grapefruit and kind of subtle coconutty type character.
So, I mean, as a total layman, hops, different types of hops. So what are the different types of hops? How do you use them? What are you going for when you're selecting them?
Yeah, so I'm mostly going for aroma and flavor from the hops. And so looking at how one variety of hop can give a different character in when you boil it versus when you put it in after the fermentation is all done and there's no more boiling.
Yeah.
So when you put it in the boiling stage, it becomes more bitter and flavorful. But then when you put it in after the fermentation stage, it's more aromatic and also flavorful, but more aromatic. It's what gives the beer that big pop of aroma and character that's fruity without putting fruit in it. So that's the thing.
And that's the magic.
That's definitely some magic in there. But with Wild IPA, part of that magic is the hops in there, but the yeast. So for all the centuries of brewing, kind of humans make unfermented beer, but actually yeast and bacteria are the things that make beer.
Yes.
Because before that, it's just a cooking ingredient, right? It's just malt extract that's maybe bitter or spiced. Yeast and bacteria are kind of this unsung heroes that actually create beer.
that is the kind of
That's-
intrinsic link between baking and brewing, isn't it? That,
Yeah.
Because they're very similar. I mean, I can't remember who it was I heard say it, but basically beer is bread in liquid form. Right, so a quick update on what I'm cooking. I've taken the this was just sliced goat leg, which I've marinated overnight. So in the marinade is red onion, parsley, oregano. I bought a little harissa paste that you can make your own. Put a couple of spoonfuls of harissa paste through it, a little bit of olive oil, seasoned it with salt and pepper, and obviously there's some garlic in there as well. So we cooked as you saw, we just barbecued the leg steaks after the marinade, and with those, with the onions, we've just cooked them down till they start to sweat, and then they get nice and soft. You can just see that there, you get nice and soft. And then we're going to take, go for it, man. And then we're going to take a little bit of the.
Ooh, yum. So a lot of that juice there is wild IPA, right?
It's the wild IPA juice with obviously it's been mingled with the marinade. You want to put the marinade on maybe a couple of hours before. The thing about cooking with the beer, obviously you get all the flavour of the IPA and all that work and sort of depth of flavour that you put into the beer, then kind of transfers itself into the meat and into the marinade. But also there's enzymes in the beer that start breaking it down. So you end up with a sort of, it's almost like you pulverised it, but on a sort of molecular level. And we're just going to reduce that down, and then you end up with...
The aroma is just amazing coming off this, and the taste of that harissa spice is...
yeah, it's a funny thing, isn't it? The way that the IPA really responds well to the spiciness of the food. So we're just going to reduce this down a little bit. You don't want to take it all the way down so it starts to become really sticky, because what you want is you want to use that liquid and the onion mix to moisten the bun and the whole sort of mouthful when you eat it. So we've just taken that down maybe half. God, it does smell good.
I'm going to pour it in the glass there.
I was like, what? No, we're just going to put this. Oh, it's a bit hot.
That's a bit hot. Oh, yeah, there's my onion nose.
Yeah. So we'll just toast these a little bit. And the reason that obviously the steak sandwich beer thing is a bit of a classic, but the other reason that I wanted to cook this today, and I wanted to include it in the wild beer box, the Goatober wild beer box, which you can buy on our website, is £70. It includes a bottle of the Millionaire barbecue sauce, 4 cans of the IPA, 3 exclusive recipes including this one, and all of the meat that you need to cook it. And the reason I wanted to include this recipe, because I've been banging on about this for years, is that people think that goat is really difficult to cook and it requires lots of skill and it's unusual and blah 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 blah. And what we've just made is a steak sandwich, which really isn't difficult at all. So
just use fancy words.
Just use fancy words, yeah. So you get pile on a bit of your onion mix like that.
I am so excited about this.
Pile on a bit of your goat steak, and then
the juices that are dripping all over this bun.
And
There is no need for mayo. There is no need for any sauces other than...
We'll put the juice in the top of it.
Oh, look
A
at
little
that.
bit of juice on there. And you can maybe have a little, probably underdid the onions a little bit, so you can have the extra ones.
That's good. Oh, volume white.
And then just a little bit of white, because we've got to pretend that it's all professional.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, I have a feeling that a big part of this is going to be just squashing that sandwich.
Definitely.
And you can see in here, look at that, and look at that. Oh man, just like back home we have this sandwich. It sounds a bit dodgy, but the French dip sandwich, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But,
I know why you think it sounds dodgy.
yeah.
I don't know about the rest of it. So we just put the rest of the juice on top of that. If you pour the juice into the top of the bun, then you don't lose any of it and you end up getting a nice moist sandwich.
You need to have some of these onions.
No, it's alright,
Okay, let's do this.
So here we go.
I can't do the plate as well.
Alright. Oh man. You get that slight, you get the heat and the warmth of the harissa, but you get that slight tangy bitterness that you get from the beer. It just rounds the flavour off so nicely.
So I'm just gonna
Basically, it's a steak sandwich.
it's basically a steak sandwich, but I'd say this is more flavorful steak sandwich I've had. And that's kind of the thing. Like, we wanted to work. We're a brewery that's on a farm. Behind us is the actual brewery. And so we're in the countryside. We drive past more farms than housing estates, any housing estates really, to get to work. There's more sheep than people. And so in other words, farming is important to us, and ethical farming and processes around that is really key. And when we heard what James was telling us about what was going on in the goat industry, and the kind of travesty that's going on there, we wanted to join in and become advocates for that. And so this was something that's really important to us, that we can make a positive difference to the farming industry by choosing to eat an incredibly flavorful meat.
Yeah, so, and we're in Somerset. I mean, there are a lot of goat dairies around us. I mean, the one that's local to us is about 40 miles away, which is the second biggest goat dairy in the country. There's one in Pyle, which is not very far from here, which also produces for Delamere, which is the company we work with to take goats. And I think for you guys as well. I mean, I think that's a really like giving your product an authenticity and a sense of place by engaging with the sort of local farming community is really important. But yeah, and one of the, just going back to Goatober and sort of why and the reasons and the reasons that, like, when you're asked to do something that's worthy and kind of, you know, the right thing to do, often that is something that you don't particularly want to do. Like, it's a bit of a chore. And basically, in order to contribute towards Goatober and help end the euthanizing of the billies in the dairy system, I'm asking you to eat a steak sandwich.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And have it with a nice beer. So it's not really a big chore.
So the Goatober isn't just about cabrito, is it?
No.
As well.
No.
Not to like.
No.
As far as
not.
like myself, and to make a difference, there's buying the box to get introduced to wild beer, drink wild beer, have some fun, but get introduced to the flavors that goat meat can give. B, check out your website for in the future that box isn't going to be on there, and see, like, this is what I didn't know for sure, would just people talking to their local butcher,
100%.
having a relationship with a local butcher is important, but asking a local butcher, can you get some interesting goat cuts for me?
Yeah, I mean, the more people ask for it, the more goats will be kept alive, the more goats will go into the food system. And I think the point you make about local butchers is really important. I think they have and maybe in the last year or so, we start to appreciate those kind of personal connections when you're doing your shopping more, because for some people it's the only time they left the house. And I hope that one of the things that comes out of that is that people have a reliance and a relationship with their local butchers or their local grocers, because they trust the products that they're buying in, they know the traceability, they understand it, but also you have that human contact and that relationship, which I think is the thing that we've lost in food. We've lost it's a very, very soulless process going into a supermarket and buying up a plastic wrapped piece of chicken and taking it home. And I think
massively soulless.
Yeah, and I think your life can be better if you go to a butcher, have a relationship, have a conversation, find out about the farming. You know, your life will be enriched by that experience. So you're absolutely right. Goatober isn't about me or about cabrito. It wasn't even my idea. It came from the United States. But it's more about all the best stuff does, huh? It was more about just trying to end the waste in the dairy industry across the board, and we have the power to change the food system that we have through the purchasing decisions that we make. And if you, wherever you are in the country or the world, if you go to your butcher and say, I'd really like some goat meat, they will find it and they will sell it. It won't come from me necessarily, but it'll come from some other farmer who then sees a demand for goat meat, who will then keep more of the billies alive, and we have a more circular food system, which in the end is the goal for all of us. And like I said, it's not asking you to do something really worthy but difficult and tough. I'm asking you to have a steak sandwich and a glass of beer. Great.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you.
All right, that's it. How do I turn this thing off? Man, it's so professional. I actually don't know how you turn it. You're still on. I don't know how to turn it off. Oh, there we go. Yes, I definitely.